Welcome to my fun house!
Hello and welcome to the 25th episode of ToonCast, brought to you by the GeekCast Radio Network. I'm your host, TFG on Mike, and today I am joined once again by Pecan Court Michael, making a return Steve Megatron, and making a triumphant return the original co-host, Kevin Boss K-Dog Thompson. Hello, Kevin.
How's it going? Pretty good.
Yeah, this is the first time we've had you on since episode 14 and the interview. Uh-huh.
It's been a long time. I've missed out on a lot.
Yes, you have.
I cried myself to sleep a few times.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you have.
I think if my computer died on me, I would cry myself to sleep every night.
Yeah. Well,
And sometimes in the middle of the day, too. Yeah, like in the
I do that,
afternoons, I
too.
would cry myself to sleep then, too.
Well, it almost did, didn't it, about 2 weeks ago?
For a couple of days, I cried a lot. I was happy.
And actually, the plan is now that I've come to this great realization tonight that I actually had Kevin's phone number on my computer. I just needed to find it because I have this Skype subscription. I think. Yeah, true. That's true. I think we're just going to do these remotely every week from now on with Kevin because I'm tired of having to beg and hunt down a co-host each week. So it's all your damn fault.
Nice. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think I've been pretty available.
No, okay, well, the complainer is excluded from this, but before I enlisted you, I had to find somebody for 15. I had to find somebody for 16. I had to find somebody for 17. 17, friggin' Tailspin was the hardest thing because I had 6 people tell me, oh yeah, sure. And like 2 hours before we started, oh no, I can't make it. Yeah, exactly.
Sending a pit bull to your house. Pit bull with AIDS.
Wow.
Wow.
I wish that on anyone.
Well, you wish it on people who tell you 2 hours before recording they can't make it.
Well, I mean, I understand stuff comes up. I'm not going to get into all that, but, now that I've figured this whole thing out, I can, Kevin can actually be on the show again. We can figure shit out. We don't actually have to worry about, or I don't actually have to worry about finding someone each week to record with me.
And that is until we record this entire episode and then figure out this whole remote thing didn't work.
No, it's working because I just saw the green thing on the thing when you talked, so it's working. Let's just hope my computer doesn't decide to shit the bed and it deletes the file. That's been known to happen before.
Yes, that'd not be a good thing.
Yes, just ask Steve. He knows.
Yes.
Now you've jinxed it. Good job.
No, don't even start talking
Why
about
would you do that?
Shut up. So today's topic is going to be G.I. Joe, and we will be right back.
We'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe, American hero. G.I. Joe is there. It's G.I. Joe against Cobra and Destro, fighting to save the day. He never gives up. He's always there, fighting for freedom over land and air. G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe is there.
G.I. Joe is the code name for America's daring, highly trained Special Mission Force. Its purpose, to defend human freedom against Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world.
He never gives up. He'll stay till the fight's won. G.I. Joe will dare. G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe.
We are back, and it is time for the history lesson, and even though the professor is here, unfortunately he has no script, so, like always, I'll be taking over the history lesson. For episode 25, we travel back to 1985 for G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. It's a half-hour American animated television series based on the successful toy line from Hasbro and the comic book series from Marvel Comics. The cartoon had its beginning with 2 5-part miniseries, then became a regular series that ran in syndication from 1985 to 1987. Ron Friedman created the G.I. Joe animated series for television and wrote all 4 miniseries. The 4th miniseries was intended to be a feature film, but as noted subsequently was released as television miniseries instead because of production difficulties. That's the history lesson, and we are going to move on to the general memories. And as far as general memories, I finally did find a few episodes from unfortunately, YouTube, because, as I said before, I don't have the DVDs, unfortunately. And I remember watching this show, but it's not very upfront in my mind as, like, Transformers was. Because, I was more into Transformers and He-Man than I was G.I. Joe. I'm not saying I don't like G.I. Joe. I do like it. I like the episodes that I watched today. But shut the hell up. This is just... this is just so, like, far back in the back of my mind that so it's basically going to be you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call you guys by name, and you guys can just give your general memories. That way it's a even flow, and people aren't interrupting people, and audio isn't crapping out over each other. So why don't we start with the long-lost co-host, Kevin?
What I found weird about G.I. Joe, now that I'm looking back at it, is when I think of my general memories, I actually remember more the intro, the endings, the PSAs, the bumpers, all the, like, extra stuff. But when it comes to, like, the actual shows itself, I don't have, like, a big memory of, I remember this, this episode, or I remember that episode. I remember the characters, of course, but it's the intro with the guy speaking over in the theme song. It's the knowing it's half the battle. It's the, we'll be right back to G.I. Joe type stuff that I really remember like it was yesterday. But the actual, like, stories and the plots, I would have to watch them all again to even hope to, and even then I probably wouldn't remember some of them. So I think it's kind of weird like that. I mean, some shows you remember more of what happened in the actual show. This I remember more about what happened before, after, when you're going to commercial, all the like key things that you just heard over and over and over again.
Right.
I don't know.
I actually did grab those off of YouTube. The We'll Be Right Back and Now Back To. So I'll be putting some ads in between those.
It's as simple as those bumpers were.
Mm-hmm.
You just they're very memorable.
Oh yeah, very much so. Steve, why don't you go next?
Well, I also have to agree. I don't remember much of, like, some of the shows. I do remember. I mostly grew up on the G.I. Joe Deke series over the Sunbow. For whatever reason, that's the only one that I'd caught at the time, and then I slowly went back and watched them as Cartoon Network was airing them for that brief period of time. I did own the 87 G.I. Joe movie, which was on VHS, and I wore the hell out of the tape until recently when I've managed to get it on DVD. But this series, quite possibly, I mean, it has a great voice cast. You'll recognize much of them crossing over from Transformers and various other 80s tunes. But I generally like the character of, like, Duke, Snake Eyes, who obviously never speaks, and Cobra Commander.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that whole persona of Cobra Commander, including his various likenesses that he's dressed in throughout the Deke and Sunbow series.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, mostly I remember Cobra Commander. That's my favorite character from the whole show, which, ironically, I like the villains from the shows from the 80s. So
Nonsense, Megatron.
Yes, Megatron. So, like, it's pretty sad. I've been sitting here doing, while I was at work, doing the voice of Cobra Commander the best I could. Yeah, it's sad. But anyways, that's pretty much all I remember is, like, the PSAs, the intro, outro music, which is awesome, and Cobra Commander and some select episodes here or there.
Yeah, Steve was born the year before G.I. Joe actually ended, so, well, the Sunbow series, so he's probably not going to have a whole heck of a lot to talk about for the Sunbow series, but...
Well, I do have season 1.
Yeah.
Well, the first half, anyway.
Yeah, that's true. So, last but not least, the complainer.
Dun,
I
dun,
complain.
dun.
That's
Yes,
what I
you do.
I'm going to complain about recollections and recent memories here.
Why?
No, I'm kidding. Actually, no, I would complain because when I was little, I didn't have any of the G.I. Joe toys. But the cartoon was generally just an extended commercial for the toys, a half-hour long toy commercial that came on every day. But my best friend at the time had like 2 of every toy. Because he had one, and his little brother, who was about 2 years younger than him, had an identical one because his dad would buy them both the same toy, and every day he'd come home with a new toy. So they had just a ton of G.I. Joe figures, and I'd go over and I'd play with them all with them, and it was very cool. So I mean, I grew up with the cartoon and the toys, and at first the first season of G.I. Joe was very realistic. You got tanks fighting other tanks, and they've got military hardware, and it's really kind of neat because it was all based on actual military hardware. The tanks were his tanks, you could argue, were big tanks, but it hadn't gotten to the point where it was like spaceships and such yet.
Yeah.
But when you got into the second season or so, things kind of took a turn for the worse because at that point, your characters were less realistic. You've got his tank attacking G.I. Joe, and oh shit, let's all jump out of our tank and run away because Lady J's throwing a stick at us. And inexplicably, it's a stick that can blow up a tank. I hated that. And about that time, it's like, well, I'd much rather watch Transformers anyway, or I can skip this and play video games, play on my Atari 2600 until Transformers comes on, that type of thing.
A lot of that had to do with the fact that you got cartoons. You had your 2 basic types. You had your Saturday morning cartoons, which had very few episodes in comparison to the daily syndicated ones. And I think one thing that happened with G.I. Joe is since you're seeing it every day and it's a new episode, I think they were just reaching to try to make sure that they weren't doing the same thing over and over and over again. And unfortunately, that led to a lot of crazy, plot lines and stories. But I think it's kind of just a product of, they needed something new every single day and they didn't want to, repeat the same stuff.
And that's the problem, though, is that if you collected the toys, and I kind of did vicariously through my best friend, but they had a lot of toys, and although they tried to bring as many characters as they could into each episode, they still skipped a lot. And it worked for G.I. Joe because you had 1,000 Joes. But for Cobra, it's like the same generic Cobra Trooper. Occasionally you'd see Snow Serpents, occasionally you'd see a Televiper, but it's always the same generic, Cobra grunts. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the same. But in the toy line, the Cobras were just as diverse as the Joes, and I was left wondering, well, why don't all these other bad guys? Why don't I ever see the Urban Warrior in his kind of blue and orange outfit in a cartoon? Why aren't I seeing the Rock Vipers in the G.I. Joe cartoon? The Grenadiers came much later after the cartoon, actually, I believe after the cartoon was canceled. But, it would have been cool to see them, although I know I never would.
Right.
Because, even if they had Destro defect, he would still have the same old, black and blue Cobra grunts running around. As depressing as that is. Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, it's funny. One of the episodes I watched today in prep for the show was Skeletons in the Closet, and that actually shows that apparently Lady J and Destro share a distant ancestor.
Wow.
Yeah, it was this whole thing where the Baroness got jealous because Destro saved some generic Cobra chick or whatever, and she dressed up as this other person, and and she went to this manor house that she knew was his house, and she basically destroyed it just because he was looking at another woman and all this and everything else. But I thought it was kind of weird that Lady J and Destro would be related somehow.
It's like almost as weird as Hawk and Baroness having a... Oh, wait, that was the live-action movie.
Yeah, we won't be talking about that on this show. No, we're not bringing that up.
I actually haven't seen that yet. I decided to wait.
It was actually really good. There was just a couple things that were just out of nowhere. You're like, what? That's not how it happened.
Yeah, I have yet to still watch that on DVD. I actually have it sitting in front of me, and I kind of bootlegged it when it was in theater so I could watch it on the computer.
Mike's gonna kill me, but I actually liked the live-action G.I. Joe better than I liked the live-action Transformers.
No.
Well, to each their own. I just can't get past the freaking enhancement things, but that's for a completely other show. We're getting off onto onto something that isn't even related to the I mean, it is related to the cartoon, but really, no.
Well, you don't want to get me started on that rant anyway. I have a great dislike for Cobra Commander.
Or
in the movie.
Or the Doctor, whatever you want to call him.
Well, anyways. I'm talking about his end likeness by the end of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into the characters and voice actors. I'm just kind of going to go down the list, and we can say what our favorite characters are. I'm not really going to read some of the promos, or not promos, but some of the information for each one. You got Hawk, who is Brigadier General Clayton Abernathy. Now, the episodes, I've only seen like 4 or 5 today. I did not see Hawk or Duke in either one. It was either Flint and Lady J and a bunch of the other characters. I saw Shipwreck in one episode, and I don't even know who else.
Well, they did Shipwreck to death.
They alternated.
They what?
Oh, I was going to say they alternated between Hawk and Flint and Duke quite randomly throughout the series, and then eventually Sergeant Slaughter. So I mean, it was kind of a back and forth.
That was
Go ahead, Kevin.
One problem too is that with a show like that where you have so many writers contributing, is a lot of the you had some writers who actually gave a crap about what they were doing, and they actually wanted to put out a good product, and then you obviously had some that were just doing it for a paycheck, and they actually talk about this a little bit in the on the DVD set in one of the bonus features where Flint Dilley is talking, and he was the kind of one of the main writers and editors, etc. And he wrote in a succession order where you have basically Hawk as the number one in charge, and then you have Duke, and then you have Flint, etc. But he would have Hawk giving Duke orders, etc. But then you'd have another writer come in and do his own episode where it's vice versa, and you have the other person giving the other guy orders or this or that. And I don't know if there wasn't time to go back and edit or to change things about. But as you had different writers come in, especially with Flint and Hawk and Duke, you'd have the role reversal happen where all of a sudden someone else was in charge and someone else was secondary. And that was kind of something that bugged me as a kid. I could never figure out who the heck's in charge here.
Hmm. At least the character models were all distinguishable, though. At least you couldn't, hey, wait, isn't that the same character? No, it's not.
You might have the same voice doing it, but they look different.
No, I knew the difference between Flint and say Shipwreck or somebody like that. I mean, I knew the difference between the characters. Let's see, another character is Snake Eyes, the team's resident hand-to-hand combat instructor. Now, Snake Eyes is the one that doesn't speak, right?
Correct.
Right.
Do you guys have
the Wolverine of the G.I. Joe force?
Without the claws.
Well, I don't know. He's got swords.
He's more deadly, though.
Yeah, he's kind of like the strong, silent one with the knives that just runs out and kills bad guys.
It doesn't heal.
They actually had an entire. I'm just kind of off track a little bit, but they actually had an entire comic that they put out just about Snake Eyes, where there was actually no words in the whole comic. There was no captions, there was no dialogue, there was nothing, and it wasn't necessarily intentional. They did it because they were running out of time one of the times that they needed an episode, so they went without the dialogue. But it became a pretty famous whatever you want to call it, comic book.
Yeah. Next on the list is Lady J. Corporal Allison R. Hart Burnett is a covert operative and intelligence operator. She was born in Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. She has a famed romance with Flint. And we should also note that Marissa Fairborn from Transformers is their daughter.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Had to throw that in there.
Of course.
We're not going to say which Marissa Fairborn it is.
What?
Well, it could be the G1 Marissa Fairborn, or it could be the hot bikini-clad Kiss Players Marissa Fairborn.
Oh, good lord. I meant the cartoon, man.
Oh,
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyways. Scarlet, Shipwreck, Sergeant Slaughter. I thought it was cool to see Sergeant Slaughter in a cartoon. That was awesome.
That was one of my favorite characters to actually see on the Joe side next to Duke.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you were a fan of, early 80s wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of us were back in the day, and like Hulk Hogan was my hero.
Yeah.
So the fact that Sergeant Slaughter's an actual person, he's not fictitious. He's there doing the drill sergeant thing.
It's funny that you brought up the wrestling though, because the wrestling angle is actually what got Sergeant Slaughter written out of the cartoon eventually.
Yeah.
In wrestling, he had turned bad at one point, or turned to the
Like the
the
NWO
foreign side.
type.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that, where he turned on and he partnered with the foreign guys. I think they had some cheap, Middle Eastern type characters, and he sided with them. And the people in charge of GI Joe said he has to be written out. You gotta get him out of the cartoon now.
Yeah.
So.
Did that happen
Kind of unfortunate.
before the cartoon was canceled?
Yeah.
That was at the end of the Sunbow. He wasn't brought back for Deke.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You have Bazooka, Quick Kick, Dusty, Beachhead, Gung Ho, Lieutenant Falcon, Wetsuit, and Leatherneck. Okay, now, if you guys want to have a free-for-all and discuss any of those, I guess I don't remember any of them outside of Shipwreck, which is the one I just saw earlier.
As annoying as Shipwreck was, I remember him, besides Duke, I remember Shipwreck, and it's probably because they used him so much, but I actually remember him quite a bit from the cartoon, and I remember actually liking his character as a kid.
Yeah, the episode I saw today, he is extremely clumsy.
Yeah. He's got they actually the people that created him with the image that he was supposed to be kind of one of those swing characters that could be good, could be bad, and they tried to, I don't know if they succeeded or not, but they tried to model him off of Jack Nicholson.
Oh.
Yeah, he's
I
kind
kinda
of
see
the
that.
voice. Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Moving into the villains of the show is Cobra. The first one that's listed here is Serpentor. He took over leadership of Cobra in Season 2. He was created through breakthrough in cloning research by Dr. Mindbender from the DNA extracted from the unearthed remains of the most ruthless and effective military leaders in history.
That's pretty good for a dentist.
Oh, yeah. Dan clone.
A what clone?
This is and clone.
Oh, and clone. Huh. I don't really remember this character, so whoever wants to take that one.
You don't remember Serpentor?
No.
This I
Serpentor was badass.
That's
He
great.
had the
Serpentor made Cobra look like a little bitch.
Until Cobra made Serpentor look like a little bitch in the Deep series.
That's true.
In Operation Dragonfire.
Anybody who watched the Deke series, I feel sorry for though.
Well, the sad thing is, it's not that bad. But we'll get
There's
into
just
that later.
some of the storylines. Yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yeah, there are worse G.I. Joe series than the Deke series.
Serpentor just had a cool. I don't remember Serpentor a lot because I watched more of the early episodes, and I didn't necessarily see all the later ones. But Serpentor he just has a cool design.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like as a kid, you gotta be attracted to that. You want that action figure.
Yeah.
He's got snakes on his shoulders. He's got a giant, Cobra hood on his neck. I didn't really like the Serpentor armor. I think he could have, toned it down a little bit.
Yeah, he fit
But,
the character.
Yeah, but it was Serpentor. He's
Yes.
just over the top.
This I command.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And you had Cobra Commander, the supreme leader of the terrorist organization Cobra, and arch nemesis of the Joes, wears a light blue uniform and his signature battle helmet. Of course, we can't go without talking about Cobra Commander without talking about Starscream, because, Chris Latta.
They go hand in hand.
Yes, pretty much. And pretty much every attempt by Cobra Commander got foiled by one or two of the Joe teams, just like the majority of Starscream's plans failed against Megatron.
Yeah.
Only Cobra Commander was a badass.
Yeah,
For being
true.
a coward at the same time.
Actually, it's funny. I was looking on, and I'll get to this in the, I was looking on BBTS, BigBadToyStore.com, and there's actually a G.I. Joe Sunbow series, Cobra Commander Mighty Mug figure.
Yes.
Next up is Destro, born in Callander, Scotland. Destro's full name is James McCullen Destro, the 24th? Ooh.
Yes.
Wow. Ugh.
Wow, that'd
Destro,
be a fucked up name.
especially on a birth certificate.
Yes.
The Destro clan has designed and sold weapons for centuries, and Destro is the head of their current incarnation, Military Armament Research Syndicate. He wears a mask forged from beryllium steel. Oh no. Okay, who's gonna say it?
I'll chime in a little bit, just because I got to chime in on Destro. Destro is by far my favorite character in the whole series.
I was
Good.
Go ahead, Kevin.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, who's gonna chime in with the beryllium baloney?
Cesium salami.
Beryllium baloney. Destro is one badass character. I do have to admit that. Go ahead and finish what you were gonna say, Kevin.
I just want to say for me, he's what, man. I usually don't like the bad characters more than I like the good characters. I mean, for me to like one of the evil characters more than a good character says a lot. And Destro was just, I don't know if it was the mask, I don't know if it was the voice, but he added a good angle. I think one of the reasons I like G.I. Joe so much was because you didn't just have one bad group. You had like Cobra and his basically his clone troopers, and then you had Destro and the Baroness, and then you had Zartan and the his guys. So you had like all these little different gangs, and I think that made it fresh every time instead of just the same bad group. What I found interesting watching the DVDs, I know I'm referencing those a lot, hopefully that doesn't get old, but one of the writers was saying that when he was creating both the good side and the bad side, he was trying to create them like as kind of like a family grouping, like Duke as the dad, and you had Scarlet as the mom, and he was saying that you always had to have the the crazy uncle or the weasel cousin or this or that. And I found it interesting when he was talking about the bad guys, he actually referenced Destro as the dad of the group, and Baroness as the mom, and Cobra as the crazy uncle.
Mm.
Yeah, Cobra was more so the whiny bitch.
Yeah, and then of course Zartan was the weasel cousin and stuff like that. But I thought it was kind of odd that he put Destro as the dad or kind of like the head of the group. But I always kind of thought Destro was the better leader of the two.
Yes.
Serpentor's grandpa.
God, that's horrible.
Snapper kids, this I command. I always liked Destro. Destro had been my favorite, and you didn't see this so much in the cartoon, but later on when Destro kind of struck off on his own and formed the Iron Grenadiers, I was pretty certain that Destro was going to whoop up all over Cobra Commander and take over.
And I think one thing that helped out, I think it's the same reason why I like Destro and Storm Shadow, is because they were bad characters that had a couple good traits. Like you had Destro was a bad character, but he kind of had that class or that honor type thing to go in with him. Same with like Storm Shadow. He didn't want to beat someone unfairly. Like I watched an episode today where the Native American character Spirit was in a jail cell, and I don't remember who was trying to do it, Zartan or somebody was trying to like smoke him out or put laughing gas, and Storm Shadow comes in and he's like, no, you can't do that. He's got to be able to, that's not an honorable way to fight your enemies. So I kind of liked that they had a couple bad characters that had good qualities, kind of made them cool to watch.
Yes, very much so. Then you have the Baroness Anastasia de Cobre, serves as Cobra's intelligence officer as well as lieutenant and personal pilot to Cobra Commander.
And it's hottie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And she does Cobra Commander's laundry.
It's probably not all she does.
Well, she does Destro.
My boot, Baroness.
Oh crap! I was gonna say she polishes his chrome mask, but whatever. That's
Chrome head.
yeah.
Polishes his
That's got it
helmet.
sweet. He doesn't have to do a lot of stuff. That feels like I can't make out with you. We're just gonna have to skip that stuff. Anyway.
Then you had Major Blood, an Australian. He served the Australian Special Air Service Regiment and French Foreign Legion before becoming a mercenary. I know Major Blood's like supposedly a major character, but I don't really remember him.
He was a major character that kind of got faded into the background real quick, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I was really surprised that he didn't have like his own private army. You know, Destro's got his own private army. Tomax and Zaymot have the Crimson Guard. Zartan's got the Dreadnoughts. I was really surprised Major Blood didn't have his own little subgroup behind him. Maybe like just mercenary types, you know?
Yeah, unless some of the Cobra ones were supposed to be his and some were supposed to be Cobra's, I'm not really sure.
No, I think that he was just supposed to be, like a lieutenant in the Cobra ranks, but never really. He was in the cartoon, but he didn't really do much.
Yeah, he was like Cobra's commander's like best friend that he couldn't throw away.
Yeah. Then you have Storm Shadow, best known as the Cobra Commander's ninja, bodyguard, and assassin at times. You said this is one of your favorite characters, Kevin?
What's that?
You said this was one of your favorite characters?
Yeah, I like the good aspects of Storm Shadow. I mean, I like Destro better, but I just like the fact that, you have that bad guy that still has some sense of whatever, honor, I guess, if you want to call it that.
And I just realized something looking at Tomax and Zaymot. It's basically Tomax backwards.
You are killing me.
It's meant.
What?
They're mirror images.
Well, I don't know. I don't have the DVD set, unlike some people. I didn't watch all the. I don't know any of these characters, half of them. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's actually quite funny because I never actually noticed that before.
Are you serious?
Yes.
You are both killing me.
Yeah, I'm reading it on the script right now, and it makes perfect sense what you just brought up.
No comment from anybody else.
What always confused me about Tomax and Zaymot is that, they're the leaders of the Crimson Guard, and the Crimson Guard is basically, lawyers by day, soldiers by night, or lawyers and CEOs and such, and Tomax and Zaymot more than once are shown in their business suits, but when they're not being CEOs of, the Crimson Guard Company Incorporated, they are, circus acrobats? It just doesn't make much sense. It's like, wait a minute, so they grow up in the circus and then decided to get MBAs and became... I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that works.
Okay, so moving on to Dr. Mindbender, a mad scientist and master of mind control and interrogation. But his expertise does not stop there, as he has also specialities in genetics, cloning, and some cybernetics.
And dental hygiene.
Okay, so I guess you're going to take...
Was he only in G.I. Joe? He didn't make an appearance in Transformers, did he?
No.
No.
No, that was Dr. Arkeville.
He should have, though. It would have been
Cobra
awesome.
Commander did,
That would have
though.
been cool.
Yes, we know Cobra Commander did.
Yeah,
Snake.
Old Snake.
Yeah.
But Dr. Mindbender, if you read his card, actually says that he was a dentist, and he was trying to come up with an anesthesia that would keep people from feeling pain, and ended up driving himself evil.
And
then afterwards learned genetics and cloning and cybernetics. which is kind of an odd mix because you don't find too many cybernetic teeth.
No.
True.
No. Zartan, he is the mercenary who often worked directly for Cobra Commander and is one of the main villains in the G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero comic and animated series. Yeah, he's kind of weird to me. The episodes I watched today, he was in both of them, and I don't know. I don't really like him that much.
I always liked him. He had my favorite line. I can't remember exactly which cartoon it was, but he says, take all the time you need. I'm paid by the hour.
Yeah, that was this one.
Oh, I love that. I still use that line. Well, I should say I did when I was a consultant.
Yes,
take all the time you need. I'm paid by the hour.
Yes, for that company that will remain nameless.
Well, no, not. I worked full time for that company, but I've as a consultant for many other companies.
Yes, and then you have Zarana, the sister of Zartan, and Xander. Zarana is a master of disguise who can fool even the best military specialists. Again, if you guys want to take the remaining two characters, her and Xander, I don't remember any of these characters.
I don't remember them too much specifically, but I think it was, like I said before, it was just good to have so many different, whatever you want to call it, cliques of, or different groupings of bad guys. I kind of like that part.
Yeah, Zartan was the leader of the Dreadnoughts, and you've got Zarana and Xandar, who were directly related to them, but they the action figures, I believe, they all change color. So if you put Zartan out in the sun, he would turn blue. And I'm fairly certain Xandar, if you put him in the sun, he would turn blue. I'm not entirely certain about Zarana, but I wasn't really thrilled with that particular character because it's like she's got pink hair, Xandar's got red hair, and Zartan, although he's got this hood, you always wonder what color hair he's got.
He's got red hair.
Anime blue or something. Oh, is it red?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Because I saw it in the episode today. He's got black eyes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has red hair. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. But, aside from this immediate family, you've also got the Dreadnoughts that are not listed here, but there was quite a few of them.
Don't blame the researcher. It wasn't on Wiki. If it's not on Wiki, it doesn't get into the scripts.
Yeah.
I don't remember what his name was, but the guy with the long blonde hair and they all sounded like they were Australian.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was Ripper, Torch, and help me out here.
I don't know. You're drowning.
Yeah,
I can't remember what that guy's name is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there was the three main ones.
Yes.
Buzzer.
Oh.
Ripper, Torch, and Buzzer. And then, you end up with some that were, that they had as action figures but didn't have them appear in the comic or the cartoon, like Road Pig, and the guy who drives the Dreadnought Mobile, and then Zanzibar, who was the Dreadnought Pirate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez.
He was a pirate, man. He was awesome. But that was always my favorite subgroup, was the Dreadnoughts. I thought they were cool.
Alright, we are going to be moving on to the voice cast. And as the majority of the four of us know, this is basically, for the majority, it's a crossover between Transformers and this as far as voice actors. You had Charlie Adler as Lowlight. Jack Angel played a couple of voices. I actually find this very weird. You guys said that Xamot and Tomax are identical twins. However, Michael Bell and Corey Burton voiced either one of those characters. Michael Bell did Xamot and Corey Burton did Tomax. So if they're identical, why would they sound different?
Yeah.
Because they're two different characters.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, Michael Bell's main role, obviously, is Duke. He also played Major Blood. Grimlock is in this series. Holy crap! Greg Berger, Firefly, Rip.
One of Greg Berger's first listen Transformers. That's basically what launched his whole career.
Yep. And you got Arthur Berghardt for Destro. Let's see. Wow. Peter Cullen was Xandar, and so I forget. Was it you, Michael? That said he was blue or something.
Xandar turned blue.
Oh, Xandar turns blue in the sun. I wonder if he has a cab or a trailer next to him. Seeing as how Peter Cullen voiced him.
He keeps those in subspace. You
Yeah.
don't actually see them very often. They disappear on their own.
You got Pat Fraley, who played Ace, Airtight, and Wild Weasel. Dick Gaudier played Serpentor. Ed Gilbert played General Hawk. Dan Gilvezan played Slipstream. Hey, wait a second. That's a female. Anyway, never mind. That's a Transformers animated reference. Never mind.
Slipstream sounds an awful lot like Spider-Man. Why is that?
Yeah, exactly. I wonder.
The thing about all these voices, though, is that it would be really, really cool if they were all in the same episode, but they were chopped up. Each one of them maybe appeared in maybe 2 or 3 at the most, with the exception of like Lady J and Flint in the second season, and
right.
Ones that ended up being main characters. But occasionally you'd have 1 or 2 side characters pop in.
Yeah, right. Of course, Chris Latta played Cobra Commander, Frostbite, Gung Ho, Ripper, Steeler. And then I'm just kind of going to run through these because this actual segment is running long here. Rob Paulson alert, played Snowjob and Tripwire.
Frank Welker.
Yeah, well, Frank Welker does everything. Copperhead, Flash, Freedom, Junkyard, Polly, Short Fuse, and Timber.
Torch and Wild Bill.
Oh yeah, those are under his name there. B.J. Ward played Scarlet. Wow. Princess Allura was Scarlet? Holy crap. I did not know that.
She was she also did most of the unnamed female characters too.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, like if there was a female or an old man or a child or something that was needed as an extra. Since she I mean, you guys know some of this, but as a voice actor, you could, at one point, be only contracted on a show for 3 voices for one particular episode. So if she was going to be in there, since she was usually the only female, if you had Scarlet, you usually didn't have, Lady J or whoever in it. So she'd be the one that got stuck doing, 2 extra roles just for the heck of it, since her character was only ever used as one.
Right.
I thought that was a relatively new rule.
No, that's been around
No, it was
for years.
around back then, but what happened was because you had so many different episodes and different stuff like that, you would have people that got away with, like Frank Welker, with having, 8 voices or however many. It seems like he has like 1 million on every show, but I think in one actual recording session for a show, you could only do up to 3.
Yeah. So you'd never see Freedom and Junkyard in the same episode.
Right, you wouldn't see more than 3 of his characters in the same episode. But with her, since you're only going to have one, Scarlett's going to be there, that's it. She would do all the extra work.
So who would you say is your all's least favorite or most favorite voice actor for a voice from this show? Steve, you can go first.
I'd have to say my favorite voice actor is Chris Latta, obviously, because I like Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
So I'm very biased. Can't really say any worst voice actor because every character has pretty much, for the most part, diverse voicing for the characters. So I can't really say anybody is bad at whatever they're playing.
Right. What about you, Michael?
I would normally chime right in and say Chris Latta, because hey, it's Starscream.
Yeah.
But honestly, I really liked Destro and the Baroness.
Mm-hmm.
Together, as they were almost always together.
Oh yeah.
But I think he had a really cool voice. It was almost like Darth Vader-ish, except without all the respiration.
Yes.
The automated respirator.
Mm-hmm.
And the Baroness was just kind of, it's like, what accent is that? It's not quite European, but it's not quite Slavic. It's kind of, it's kind of weird. I'm thinking like Transylvanian or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't quite put your finger on it, but I always thought she sounded cool.
What about you, Kevin?
There's so many. I mean, if Cobra Commander and Starscream weren't exactly the same, I'd put him as my favorite, but his quality of voice acting was just unparalleled. I mean, you couldn't, you have some people who they retire or that pass on and someone takes over their voice. Nobody's taken over Chris Latta's voices. I mean, you can't do that. You can't replicate that voice. But I think my favorites are Arthur Burkhart, who did Destro. I don't have a computer or anything in front of me, so I can't remember exactly who did these voices. But the guy who did Shipwreck.
Yeah, it was Michael Bell.
Yeah, Shipwreck and Zartan I liked a lot. And B.J. Ward I thought did fantastic as Scarlet. My least favorite would be Dick Gautier, just because he, out of all of them, did the least difference in his voices. And he even admits this on the DVD. He says, I didn't change anything for any of the voices. This is this guy, this is this guy, this is this guy, and it's the same voice for all of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and he's one that's not, I don't know if this is right to say, but he's not necessarily a true voice actor. He was a Broadway star. He was a old school, actual actor. So he was kind of one of the ones that they brought in as more of a celebrity type or a well-known person, that they brought in to do voice acting. So he just didn't have the schooling, I think, that, Michael Bell and some of these other guys did, Jack Angel.
Oh, crap. Steve, why don't we just take a quick break? This is almost running 40 minutes long on this one, so we'll be right back with the behind-the-scenes segment. We'll be right back.
Greetings, officials of the Earth. I am Cobra Commander. I am the leader of Cobra. And you will turn in your iPods or MP3 players and listen to ToonCast, or else Destro.
Yes, Cobra Commander.
I want you to play the episode of G.I. Joe on ToonCast. So for now, turn your sense. I am Cobra. Retreat.
It is now time for the behind-the-scenes segment. Research for this show wasn't hard, but it wasn't like all in one place. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the Deke G.I. Joe version a little bit later, but for this, the early 80s version, I had to go to like 4 different pages on Wiki to find this. One of the origin things I found was A Real American Hero was a revival of the original 12-inch, 30-centimeter G.I. Joe brand of the 1960s and 70s. After the 12-inch figure had been absent from toy shelves for a few years, G.I. Joe was reintroduced in 3 3/4 inch action figure format following the success of Star Wars and Micronauts scale toy lines. Prior to G.I. Joe's relaunch in 1982, Larry Hama was developing an idea for a new comic book called Fury Force, which he was hoping would be an ongoing series for Marvel Comics. The original premise had the Son of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s director Nick Fury assembling a team of elite commandos to battle neo-Nazi terrorists Hydra. The idea was mixed, but Hama used the basic premise when he learned of Hasbro's plans to resurrect G.I. Joe toy line. Each G.I. Joe figure included a character biography called a file card. Hama was largely responsible for writing these file cards, especially for the first 10 years. When developing many of the characters, he drew much from his own experiences in the U.S. military. I gotta say, that part's cool.
That is terribly cool. I had no idea that Hama wrote all those.
Yeah, and actually that was the first toy series, whatever you want to call it, that ever used, like a file card or what he called them dossiers with the information on each character. And since then it's almost become standard where you see that in a lot of cartoons since then. But that was the first one that did that.
I used to collect
and,
those. Cool.
Just to chime in, because you had said the shift from the 12 inches to the 3 3/4. Actually, what killed the 12-inch figures was it all comes back to this, but was oil prices and things like that were going on in the world at that time. It became too expensive for them to produce the 12-inch figures, and the prices were going to be too steep for people to buy them. So that's one reason why the 12 inches went by the wayside. But like you said, Star Wars, when they did that 3 3/4, all of a sudden it became feasible to do it that way. And they were fine producing the 3 3/4. their only rule when they were producing the toys is every year's line, you had to be able to own the entire line for $100. If you had $100, you were supposed to be able to buy each year's entire line, and they wanted to make sure they never went above that. I don't know how many years that lasted, but when the first series of toys came out, that was their goal.
That's interesting.
So I thought that was kind of cool for them to actually try to have make it feasible for the everyday person to try to own the whole line. I thought that was kind of cool because most toy companies would try to just bleed you out of however much money they could get out of you.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I wonder if how that affected the vehicles, because I know a lot of the vehicles were just expensive.
Well, maybe
the aircraft carrier.
Well, yeah, the Terratron, but even the early stuff, like the Mobat, the tank, that was expensive. I mean, it was a remote controlled. Well, not remote control, but you could make it go forward and backward and turn.
Originally, there was I don't know how many actual figures. I'm not a humongous G.I. Joe toy collector. I don't know how many figures are in each series. I know originally there was only 10 figures in the 3 3/4 line, but I don't know. I'm assuming subsequent years had 20 or 30 figures in each line, but I don't know.
Yeah. Fantastic use of pause there while you type.
Sorry.
I don't know who the original 10 characters were, but I know that there was originally 10 of them.
Yeah, and they all look the same pretty much. The original 10 all wore green fatigues, and you could tell them apart by like their facial hair.
Yeah.
Or like Clutch had a beard, and I think the only one you could really tell apart was Zap, and it's because he had the red pads on.
Yeah, they did get some. When you talk about not the characters, but the vehicles and stuff like that, they did get some pretty cool perks. The guys that were designing these toys, they actually got to go to actual military bases, and not only military bases, but they got to go to like the place. I don't know what the technical name for them is, but they got to go into military facilities that were trying to design weapons for the future, and they got to see what some of those designs were before they ever were completed or before the world saw them, to try to kind of take some of those ideas and then combine them with whatever crazy schemes they wanted to create the G.I. Joe vehicle. So I thought that was kind of cool that the military actually let them into their facilities to see, not necessarily top secret information, but to see what they were designing for the future.
That reminds me of a certain live-action Transformers director, bastard. Michael Bay raped my childhood. The overall premise for the toy line revolves around an elite counter-terrorist team codenamed G.I. Joe, whose main purpose is to defend the human freedom from Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world. In 1994, Hasbro transferred control of the G.I. Joe toy line and brand name to the newly acquired Kenner division, who promptly canceled the A Real American Hero toy line and replaced it with the new Sergeant Savage and his Screaming Eagles toy line instead. After a brief revivals in 1997 and 98, the toy line was revived as Real American Hero Collection in 2000 to the mass market. In both cases, previous molds were reused and some characters had to be renamed due to copyright issues. Another relaunch was made in 2002 under the theme G.I. Joe vs. Cobra, and new designs and characters were introduced. Sometimes I really hate copyright law, because it's not the same toy if it doesn't have the original name.
Yeah. That's something that is pretty crappy about that whole law.
Hasbro.com officially announced a new line of 25th anniversary 4-inch G.I. Joe figures on January 18th, 2007. The line is primarily based on the characters and designs from the early part of the Real American Hero line. Which, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, those are really nice.
That's a good line.
They're like hyper articulated, but they pay an amazing amount of homage to the original designs.
Mm-hmm.
They're really nice.
Holy crap! The creator of Gem was a writer on this show. I'm just looking at the writing credits here. You got Buzz Dixon, Ron Friedman, Flint Dilley, David Caron, Carla Conway, Jerry Conway, which majority of these people wrote stuff for Transformers. Obviously, Transformers.
Christy Marks.
That's the chick that created Gem.
Well, she also did Beast Wars and Beast Machines episodes.
Well,
and actually, they say on that some of her scripts were so good that they needed no editing. They just literally took whatever she wrote and just said, that's it, that's the show.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Ted Peterson, Beth Bornstein, Steve Mitchell. I'm not recognizing anybody else really. Larry Hama, but I mean he pretty much was some of the creative team. Go ahead.
Do a quick note on one of the ones you called out there, Friedman. He was one of the main writers actually when it all.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hama was the main comic book writer. He wrote all the comics, but for the TV series, Friedman was the one that really kind of developed everything.
Right.
And I think he's one of the keys in making G.I. Joe what it was. Before he became involved as a writer, he actually was involved in special studies where he was like in these test groups and different pilot studies where he would go and play with toys with kids and figure out which things caught their interest or what grabbed them about different toys, whether it was card games or board games or more like action figure type stuff. So I think that experience really gave him an insight into when he was doing a cartoon. How am I going to grab these kids' attentions in 3 minutes or in 2 minutes? So I think he was a big reason. I mean, obviously they had a good cast with Buzz Dixon and Flint Dille, but I think Friedman really helped out in the writing. You should get some.
Oh, right. Very, very much so. I've actually, since you haven't been on the show recently, Kevin, I've actually combined the writers and directors. I actually couldn't find any directors for this show, but I did find, as far as series produced by, Joe Bacall, Jim Duffy, Tom Griffin, Michael Charles Hill. Those are really the only names that I recognize. Obviously, Joe Bacall, Jay Bacall, and Tom Griffin. I believe Joe's the father, Jay is the son, and then Tom Griffin is Joe's partner as far as G.I. Joe / Transformers production.
Yeah, and then you had your obviously your voice director was Wally Burr, and your editor for all the scripts was Flint Dille.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting too. When they went to get their main writer, which was Friedman, they actually set out and had a purpose to not find someone that was an animated writer. They actually went and auditioned people that were writers for live action TV series, for actions and dramas on TV, with adult type shows, and they specifically went away from the normal, which was getting just an animated writer who had experience, and that's how they found Friedman. He had actually had very little experience ever doing animated writing before, so I think that kind of helped bring the show and make it not so I don't know if kiddie's the right word, but a little bit more advanced than some of the other stuff that was out there.
No, this show, now that I've watched a couple of these episodes, back then, I can see why parents would not want their kids back then in the 80s watching these types of shows, because, all this violence really wasn't for kids. I don't know.
It was a very violent, show. I don't think it was that bad.
I mean, I'm sure there's more stuff that's violent now, but I'm saying back then, at that time, I know for a fact that my aunt would not allow me to watch Transformers at her house because she thought they were too violent. That's just the way it is.
Especially with all those lasers hitting people.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Those things that don't even exist.
Oh wait, they never hit anybody.
I don't think they actually hit anybody. No. Well,
only in the episode where they go into the alternate Earth and there's G.I. Joe's dead on the ground. I guess that was kind of morbid, but.
No, I mean they would do things like Lady J would throw a stick at them and the stick would explode, and instead of hand grenades popping out, there'd be a net. And the net would loop everybody up, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're caught now!" I hated that.
Yeah.
Hated it.
It was a little more. It was a little more mature though than some of the other cartoons out there. Meaning, just compare it to Transformers for a second. I know Transformers are machines and these are actual people, but in G.I. Joe, you actually had boyfriends and girlfriends on the show. Like you actually had people that had relationships with each other. You had connotations to kissing each other or stuff like that, or having love interests. So I thought that kind of helped it make it more where it wasn't a show where you were going to give up right after you turned 10, because it was too childish for you. It was a show where you could watch it and kind of still have interest even into your teen years.
Well, they could always watch The Girl Who Loved Power Glide. But anyway, that's a whole other monster.
Or they can watch G.I. Joe Resolute.
Oh God, let's not get into that.
I would love to get into that. It was
No,
awesome.
let's not get into that.
That's what G.I. Joe should
That falls out of the timeline. Thank you very much. It happened after 1999.
Damn it.
Plus, Steve, you and I already covered that on Geekcast Radio. So anyway, moving into the actual show, there was actually the miniseries before the actual cartoon started up. The first G.I. Joe cartoon series was produced by Marvel Productions and Sunbow Productions to follow the success of the toy line by Hasbro. G.I. Joe premiered as a 5-part miniseries on September 12th, 1983. Well, at least it was.
That actually, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
That actually also had never been done before.
Mm-hmm.
They'd never produced a miniseries for, like a 5-part miniseries that was going to be shown the whole week for a kids-type show. And there was a lot of people that thought that was a bad idea and thought it was going to, it would never work. But I guess every single day of those 5 days, the ratings went higher until at the end of the week it was just, beyond a hit.
Right. And with the success of that animated introduction, a second miniseries was aired, G.I. Joe: The Revenge of Cobra, on September 10th, 1984. As far as the Real American Hero, this 5-part pilot miniseries was alternately aired under the title The Mass Device. During the series syndication, Cobra develops an experimental teleportation unit known as the Mass Device, which has the ability to transport matter to any global location using satellite to relay the teleportation beam. G.I. Joe must stop Cobra by creating a mass system of their own. But first they'll need to gather the 3 rare elements to power the device, which consist of radioactive crystals, heavy water found in the depths of the ocean, and fragments from a giant meteorite. Yeah, so basically it's basically, you could pretty much equate the G.I. Joe series, and I'm not trying to say anything bad of it, you could basically equate this to Counter-Strike, where it's terrorist, anti-terrorist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they did that. They did that because they didn't want to have the bad guys be from a specific country. They didn't want to have any backlash from having them be from Korea or being from Russia or whatever it was. So I think that was their way to just say, oh, they're terrorists, and that's anybody. I don't know.
Yeah, you just throw them in a blue uniform with a red snake on the front and put a silver mask on them, and hey, they're Cobra Commander. They're Cobra Commander clones.
The future. They were ahead of their time.
Yeah, exactly. Michael or Steve, do you guys either want to take the Revenge of Cobra or Pyramid of Darkness miniseries and talk about those? And
I don't really remember them so much being a miniseries. I may have been too young to really know at the time.
Okay, well, that's just the way the information was presented in Wiki, so I will just go into the main series. Following the initial 2 miniseries, the regular series began airing September 16th, 1985, debuting with the third 5-part story, The Pyramid of Darkness. A public safety lesson was usually featured at the end of each episode, using G.I. Joe characters in brief scenarios to impart safety tips to children. These lessons gave birth to the catchphrase, "And knowing is half the battle."
G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
I love that line.
Yeah. In each episode's opening title sequence, famed voice actor Jackson Beck states that G.I. Joe is the code name for America's daring, highly trained Special Mission Force. Its purpose to defend human freedom against Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world.
It makes me want to break into the theme song.
Well, actually, it's funny you mention that because I have the theme song, and I'm actually going to cut that out. That just the voiceover part, and it's going to actually be the intro to the show before the actual whole theme.
Nice.
So yes, because the cartoons were produced as a vehicle to sell the toys, as Michael said, each episode typically focused on a particular G.I. Joe character, giving almost everyone a moment in the spotlight. The animated series was not directly tied to the comic book produced by Marvel Comics, although several concepts such as the October Guard, Springfield, and Serpentor were all featured in the comic book and the animated series.
And they were actually given direction from Hasbro as far as which characters needed to be featured in which episode.
Oh, I did not know
Like
that.
Hasbro would actually tell them, we want this story to be about this, and you need to have the Baroness and, Flint and whatever, Roadblock in it.
Right.
Due to toy sales. At one point, Scarlet actually almost disappeared from the cartoon altogether because her toy wasn't selling very well.
Wow. In season 2, featured former WWF and then current AWA professional wrestler-made cartoon hero Sergeant Slaughter, who appeared in the 5-part season opener, Arise, Serpentor, Arise. The general consensus amongst fans of the G.I. Joe series is that program reached its peak in its second season with the introductions of Sergeant Slaughter and Serpentor. Slaughter was a popular member of the cast and even gained his own action figure. However, after a 1990-1991 WWF storyline in which Slaughter turned traitor during the First Gulf War, Slaughter was disassociated from the franchise. As far as the cancellation, Sunbow's G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero series ended November 20th, 1986, after 95 episodes. For various reasons, Sunbow Productions did not continue production for a third season. Despite G.I. Joe's success, no other studio offered to produce a new season until 1989, when Deke took over. As far as the film, now, I don't really remember this film. My two main 80s films was Transformers and The Secret of the Sword, the He-Man film. I don't even ever remember seeing this.
Because of the Transformers film is why you don't remember it.
Exactly.
Well, this actually
Transformers film killed this film.
No, they split this movie up into, I think, like 3 or 4 episodes. And
5.
put that on
It was
TV.
5.
Yeah, it was 5.
Okay, 5. And they put it on TV.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I saw it. I didn't even realize it was a movie.
It was originally going to be a movie on the big screen, just like Transformers, and because Transformers was such a flop, and because of the, a couple of different things, they scrapped the idea to make it a live, an actual movie on the big screen, turned it into basically a straight-to VHS movie, but then so that people could see it, broke it into 5 parts and showed it on TV too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and not only that, about that episode or that movie, Duke was supposed to die in it.
Yes,
Right.
I will be bringing that up in 1 second because it's actually very funny. Like you were saying, Duke was supposed to die in it. Hasbro said to Sunbow, the only way that you can kill, because originally before the switch, before it was Transformers then G.I. Joe, when it was originally going to be G.I. Joe then Transformers, Hasbro told them, if you kill Duke, you must kill Optimus Prime.
I thought that they had killed Optimus Prime,
No.
and there was such a huge backlash.
Well, there was.
Said, you know what? Now we can't possibly kill Duke because I'm not going through that again.
They had actually already, this could be conflicting reports, but they actually had already finished the movie and had almost finished the movie and had Duke die in the movie because of all the directions, and at the last second had to throw a scene in at the end or something with a line that suggested that he hadn't died, he was just in a coma or
Right, exactly.
survive.
Here's the information in the script that I grabbed. Despite popular misconception, Duke's death was not planned as a result of Hasbro ordering the writers of Transformers the movie to kill off most of the original Autobot characters. In all actuality, Duke's death was the inspiration for killing off the Autobot leader Optimus Prime. The writers for G.I. Joe asked for permission to kill Duke, in which Hasbro agreed on the condition that Prime also be killed off in Transformers. Production had begun on G.I. Joe first, and was thus expected to be released first. During the production of the 2 films, G.I. Joe's production schedule got held up, while Transformers finished production. The release dates were changed, and Transformers received a theatrical release in 1986. Optimus Prime's death sparked some backlash among fans for killing off such a popular character. From the parents from having their children in tears after the scene, Hasbro backtracked on allowing Duke's death and had new dialogue inserted stating that Duke was only in a coma and that he was able to come out of it off-screen at the end of the film. Duke reappeared as prominent character in the Deke series in 2 episodes, The Mind Mangler and Channel, indicating that his recovery from the injury in a coma was complete enough that he was able to return to active duty as part of G.I. Joe. According to story consultant Buzz Dixon, however, if you watch, Duke goes into a coma sequence with the volume turned down, it's obvious that Duke actually dies at the end of the scene. In fact, the Japanese language Laserdisc release of the film, the issue of Duke's death was actually left unedited. So if you get that, and you watch the Laserdisc, of course, again, who the hell has Laserdisc these days? It's just like getting stuff on VHS. Who the hell has a VCR anymore? But, the Japanese are known for either editing stuff out or leaving stuff unedited. I don't know. Again, I really can't say too much about this, about the actual G.I. Joe movie, because I don't think I've ever seen it.
If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. It's probably some of the best G.I. Joe stuff there has ever been. The 5-part movie is awesome.
Too bad it's not on that DVD set. Well, I almost said Sunbow. Shout Factory didn't get permission to put it in there.
Oh, but they did, but they didn't.
They didn't get actual permission to put it in there, but they left space in if they eventually do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, they have a spot for it. They have a spot that says 1987 G.I. Joe movie.
Yeah. 1994, direct-to-video release for Sergeant Savage and the Screaming Eagles. In 2003, Real FX Creative Studio produced a cartoon based on a real American hero, although it was only a direct-to-video CGI movie, G.I. Joe Spy Troops. Managed to spawn a second movie, G.I. Joe Valor vs. Venom, in 2004. Any planned follow-ups, however, have been shelved to make way for Hasbro's latest incarnation of the G.I. Joe universe, G.I. Joe Sigma 6. Although Sigma 6 is superficially connected to a real American hero, its continuity is self-contained, and Hasbro is not expected to return to the real American hero line. Sigma 6 was just... God, I hate that show.
Agreed.
I tried watching it after the... I remember when Fox was running it. They were running it right after the new Turtles series back then. Oh, God. I don't even know where to begin with... Huh?
Spy Troops is equally as bad.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, Sigma... I don't think I ever caught those two films, the Spy Trooper thing or the Valor versus Venom. I've never seen those. But, I'm not going to. It's Sigma 6.
Well, they're not that bad, but they're not good either.
So that means that they're bad.
Yes.
Do have some trivia here. As I mentioned earlier, Larry Hamill was the writer of the file cards written on the back of the packaging of the G.I. Joe toy line. At one point, Cobra was going to be Soviets, but this idea was dropped because it was considered culturally insensitive. Well, at least they dropped it. In one episode, Destro has to recite an ancient incantation to defeat a monster. If the incantation is recorded and played backwards, it says, "Anyone listening to this message backwards is a real dweeb." Wow. Dang. Sergeant Slaughter, a real-life professional wrestler, became a member of the G.I. Joe team during the show's second season. The real Sergeant Slaughter provided the voice for the animated character. The animated Sergeant Slaughter remained a member of the G.I. Joe team in later seasons, even after his real-life counterpart became an anti-American heel wrestler, teaming up with an Iraqi General Admin, I don't know, against Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 7 during the 1990 Persian Gulf War. Real-life Chicago Bears football star William the Refrigerator Perry became a member of the G.I. Joe team in late 1986 with the codename Fridge. A special edition action figure was issued, but Fridge was never featured on the animated series. Oh, that kind of sucks.
Neither was Matt, but he was a figure.
Let's not go there. We're just not going there. You know better than that. Anyways, yeah. No. Mask was.
I'm gonna find a way to find that figure and buy it.
Yeah, well, that's more than fine.
Send it to Mike and he can do a toy cast on it.
No, it's not Transformers.
Research his background.
No, plans were made to have the character Rocky Balboa join the G.I. Joe team in 1987. In fact, Marvel Comics G.I. Joe Order of the Battle issue number 2 contained a dossier for Balboa, and Hasbro designed a prototype figure with Sylvester Stallone's likeness. Oh my god.
That would have been cool.
Oh my god.
Oh please, you can have Sergeant Slaughter, but you can't have Rocky as the G.I. Joe boxer.
I just find it very, very strange that.
No, what I thought was interesting is that his counterpart, which would have been Big Boa, was an actual action figure.
Yeah, he was added to the Cobra roster, complete with boxing gloves to act as Rocky's Cobra counterpart.
But he ended up being the Cobra trainer.
Yes.
Which would have been more like a foil to Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, true. The line of action figures included one for Zartan and Swamp Master, a villain who could camouflage himself like a chameleon. However, the figure was taken off the shelves in late 1986.
Zartan could can camouflage himself, though. This confuses me.
I don't know.
Like I said, I mean, he had a vehicle that he came with. I forget what it was called, but it was like a little swamp skiff that he would ride on.
Right.
And it changed colors too.
Yeah. Do we have any other thoughts on the actual show? Steve, you're awfully quiet over there.
Yes, I'm still awake. Don't worry.
Yeah, you're not. You better not fucking fall asleep in this show.
I kill you in your sleep.
You guys start hearing. Steve's asleep. Darth Vader over there.
It wouldn't be the first time.
No, it would not. I guess we can move. Unless Kevin, do you have any other thoughts on the final show or the actual show of the '83 series?
I just really liked the miniseries that they started every season with. I thought the 5-part miniseries were awesome.
Yeah. So, moving into the music, the series' original music was done by Johnny Douglas and Robert J. Walsh. And of course, everybody remembers the theme to this show. This is one of those top themes that you just don't know, and I'm sure it's probably either, if it's not number 1 or 2, it's probably in Kevin's top 10 of his CD collection he has made.
It's not in the top 10.
What?
It is not in the top 10.
What is wrong with you?
You gotta, there's so many songs out there. When you listen to 400 theme songs, it takes a task to get you down to top 10. It is in the top 20, I'll give you that much.
Okay, well, at least it's in the top 20.
Oh, at least it's there.
Yeah. What do you guys, you guys have any thoughts on the music for this? Honestly, when I was watching the episodes I was watching today, I'm like, hey, wait, that's Transformers music! Like, during the actual episode, not the actual theme song, but just during the actual episode. And of course, as we've said before, Transformers and G.I. Joe, they're pretty much interchangeable as far as writers and crew and stuff. But I heard...
Damn, I lied.
What?
28. I lied. It's 28.
Oh, you're going to hell.
I actually put Thundercats, He-Man, and Transformers all ahead of it.
Oh my god. Anyways, while I was watching the episodes I was watching today, I recognized music that I had recognized from Transformers. I guess it's kind of cool. I don't know. I guess it probably cut costs.
They reused a lot of the music and a lot of the sound effects.
Yeah.
Well, it was the same studio doing them both.
Yeah. Yeah. What'd you say, Kevin?
I said they even reused some of the plots.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too. So going into the legacy segment here. Now, Kevin hasn't been on the show in a while, and I gotta say, I've actually looked at the IGN list, and even though I don't agree with it, I realize that as I've said before, I realize everybody has to rate stuff. At least G.I. Joe beat out some really, really horrible cartoons. It is ranked at number 19 on their top 100. Which I can kind of...
It's quite possibly the worst cartoon ranking ever, though.
Have you looked at the list ever?
Yeah, I've looked through all 100 of them. I don't know.
I know. As far as other G.I. Joe series, in 1989, Deke Entertainment produced a second G.I. Joe series starting with a 5-part miniseries titled Operation Dragonfire. A regular series was broadcast in 1990, also lasting 2 seasons to yield 44 episodes. The next few years, various cartoons tie-ins to the G.I. Joe franchise were released, but they had no bearing on the real American hero mythology. Former ARAH executive in charge of production Lee Gunther's new studio, Gunther Wall Productions, was contracted and created a new series titled G.I. Joe Extreme in 1996, featuring new characters and villains. With the 1985 and 1990 series, this series was distributed by Claster. I don't even remember Extreme.
I do. And that was on the Power Block, I believe, along with Beast Wars.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. There are comics for G.I. Joe. In 1982, when Hasbro relaunched their G.I. Joe franchise with G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, it was supported by Marvel Comics series. The comic book history of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero has seen 3 separate publishers and 4 main title series, all of which have been based on the Hasbro toy line of the same name.
Without the comics, there would have been no show.
True.
Because of their unique way of advertising the comics. When they advertised the comics on TV, they did so using animation before there was ever a cartoon, and it was so well received that they're like, well, maybe we should do a whole cartoon about it. So that was kind of neat how that happened.
True. And I think all 4 of us can agree there wasn't one single cartoon show in the 80s that wasn't a toy commercial for a toy company. For the majority.
But I do have to say something about that, because that's one of the things that pisses me off more than anything else is when people write all the stuff off as toy commercials. Yes, they were all toy commercials, but there was toy commercials and then there was toy commercials. And what I mean is you had your series that were made only to sell toys and they didn't give 2 shits about the series. What I mean is like Centurion, Dino Riders, all this bullshit, 13 episodes and done type stuff. And then you had G.I. Joes and Transformers, which, yes, they were a toy commercial, but people gave a shit about what they were doing with them. Pardon my language. But the writers actually cared, the producers actually cared, the voice talent actually cared. It wasn't just a job. So, you know, they were all toy commercials, but at least these were done with, you know, some integrity, and they were trying to at least put out a product that was good.
Yeah.
Unlike some of the other crap that we had in the 80s.
As far as the toy line, the figures were 3 3/4 inch tall at roughly 1/18 scale throughout the original toy line. Production from 1982 through 1994, figure construction remained relatively the same. The most notable changes were the second series edition of the swivel arm articulation in 1983, which allowed for forearm to rotate above the elbow. Initial figures
The Kung Fu grip.
Yeah. The initial figures can only bend their elbows. And the 4th series, ball joints replacing the former swivel necks, both dramatically increasing figures' posability. You know, if you guys want to talk about some of the toy lines, that's fine. I'm not a G.I. Joe toy collector.
I never had that many of the toys, but I remember playing with them more than I remember playing with about any other toy, because I had a next-door neighbor that probably had over 100 of them, and I just remember taking them, going outside. We had some in trees, we had some in bushes, we had some on the dirt, we had them everywhere. I mean, it was just like G.I. Joe heaven. When I remember playing with Transformers, I remember playing by myself, you know, just transforming them over and over again. But when I remember G.I. Joes, I remember playing with like 2 or 3 friends and just combining everything we had and having them outside.
Right. Do you guys, Steve or Michael, do you guys have any memories of the actual toys? I know, Michael, you were saying, I don't know if you said this on air, I think you said it back in the general memories thing, about your friend that had like 2 of each one or whatever.
Yeah, they had a lot of the toys, and the earlier vehicles were all very close to actual, actual military hardware. And my favorite was the Dragonfly, the helicopter. And the Dragonfly, you know, was just chock full of features. I mean, it could carry 2 figures up front, and plus there were peg holes on the landing struts, so people could actually hang on the side of the helicopter to carry them around. It had, you know, guns in the front that would swivel. It had rockets on either side that you could pop off and throw at people. It had a trigger that you could pull on the back that would spin the rotors. there was a winch underneath that you could drop a hook down and carry people or other vehicles or things around, so it could actually carry things with it. It had so much detail, like the stickers, the little tiny little stickers that would say "not a step" next to the engines, or careful hot, pointing to the outtake of the engines.
I think it's pretty safe to say that the G.I. Joe line had better vehicles than any other toy line possibly ever. And I know you can make an argument with the mask cars and stuff like that. That's kind of shifted into another thing. But
the mask wasn't 3 3/4 though.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I just think the G.I. Joe vehicles were number one ever for vehicles in the toy line.
Well, they started off really nice, because the Dragonfly looked like a real Cobra attack helicopter. The Mobat tank looked like a real tank. A lot of the other stuff that they sold, the missile systems and the Jeeps, all that looked like real military hardware. And it wasn't until that you get into 1990s, let's say, when they really started running out of hardware, and they started making stuff up. And it's like, well, what would be cool is if we had, this giant tank tread looking thing that would sprout helicopters out the top of it or something.
They could go through the swamp.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just making stuff up at that point, and it kind of got lame because they didn't know what color to make it. You end up with like a lime green, weird looking helicopter thing. Yeah. Whereas the earlier stuff was, in my opinion, the best, and they were really.
And they had some boats and stuff like that that would actually float in the water and stuff like that. If I don't.
I think the hydrofoil floated. The Cobra hydrofoil would float.
And I gotta just bring up the aircraft carrier again. That may be the most impressive toy I've ever seen in my life. I never owned it because I think it was the most expensive out of the whole line. But that aircraft carrier, you could literally hold your entire collection of Joes in it, like
That's
on it
crazy.
in different places. It was. If you have a chance to look it up online, I mean, it was just so impressive. Like, they showed it on a
Wasn't that
commercial
like
on the
6 feet long?
Yeah,
or
they showed it on a
ridiculous?
commercial on the DVD, like with 3 kids around it and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, I remember seeing the commercials for that.
Yeah, I've never actually seen one up close. Now, I've seen the Terradrome, and that thing's big.
Yeah.
I've never seen it in real life, but the commercial's impressive.
That thing's like, 2.5 feet in diameter?
Mm.
It's a big playset. It's like 2 stories tall.
And they actually said when they brought in the aircraft carrier to show like the team or whoever was doing it, well, I don't know how they do that, but they said they brought it into the room and the people didn't realize that that's what they were showing. They thought that they were going to pull stuff out of it to show. They didn't realize that was the actual toy that they were going to try to sell.
Yeah. But it worked like a real carrier. I mean, it had like an elevator so that you could take put the helicopter on a platform, and the helicopter the whole platform would then go under the deck, so that you could store it. And it actually had a little tow vehicle, so that you could once the vehicle, the helicopter or a jet or whatever was under deck, then the tow vehicle would come and tow it into place. It was just so.
When you're a kid, you like something where you can put. Not necessarily just like throw all your figures in and close it up and it's a carrying case, but where you can actually like pose all of your figures somewhere on the ship.
Oh yeah.
It was like a diorama that you stored in your bedroom.
I think that's where Transformers started to get the idea for city bots like Metroplex and Fort Max and Trypticon to capitalize on having a carrier or something that you could carry around with some of your toys anyway.
Right. Even now, my Metroplex is posed in city mode with minifigs all over it.
Good lord.
I think the most impressive part, though, is we're not just talking about like one of the city bots where you can fit like, I don't know, how many figures can you fit on there? 10, 12?
Half dozen, maybe like, tops, yeah.
This aircraft carrier, you could fit like 50.
Yeah.
Like, you could put like 50 of your Joes on it. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder what those are going for now.
I don't know. It's probably very expensive. Going into the VHS and DVD releases, in the 1980s, various episodes were released on VHS by Family Home Entertainment. In 2003-2004, Rhino Entertainment began releasing G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero on DVD in Region 1. They released the original miniseries in 2003, followed by Season 1 in 2-volume sets in 2004. The first half of Season 2 was released in late 2004, but the remaining episodes were never released. These DVDs have since gone out of print as Rhino lost the distribution rights. In 2008, it was announced that Hasbro had reacquired the worldwide distribution rights to the Sunbow library, which includes G.I. Joe. In March 2009, it was revealed that Shout Factory had acquired the rights to re-release the G.I. Joe on DVD Region 1. They subsequently released Season 1, Part 1 on July 14th, 2009. Season 1, Part 2 was released November 3rd, which is a couple days ago. Or, well, by the time this episode's aired, it would be a couple of weeks ago. Shout Factory also released a G.I. Joe Complete Series Collector's Set on July 22nd, 2009. The set includes all 95 restored episodes on 17 DVDs, new interviews, exclusive featurettes, archival Hasbro toy commercials, and collectible 60-page book. Yeah, me want. Me go to Illinois and steal Kevin's. Go ahead.
The Foot Locker case, I mean, I have both the Matrix of Leadership the G.I. Joe Foot Locker. Sorry. But, I mean, I love the Transformers collection, and there's nothing wrong with it. Mm-hmm. But the way the Foot Locker is actually made, it is a far superior actual like design as far as how it goes. Like the Foot Locker itself is more sturdy. I mean, you have an actual hard case that it's all in. Mm-hmm. The way the DVDs are stored in the Foot Locker, it's just, this set is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures of both. And, of course, being a Transformers fan, I want the Transformers set. And I understand that they, reading through news articles right before they released it, they weren't going to actually make a case like an actual Matrix or, you know, a Matrix replica or something like that or anything like really that special. They just made it into a really hard cardboard box, which... At least it's a hard cardboard box, and it's not flimsy like a lot of the other DVD complete series sets are sometimes. But the G.I. Joe set, they really went all out with that. I mean, it's not often that you get a friggin' metal footlocker filled with G.I. Joe
They only
stuff.
messed up one thing.
Uh-oh.
The only bad thing about the Foot Locker is the way you close the Foot Locker. It has like a little metal like latch type thing, like you would have on a lunchbox or whatever, you know, like any type of thing like that.
Right.
But the way they did it is the latch is on the bottom.
Oh.
If you were trying to put it on a DVD rack, you can't display it with the G.I. Joe symbol facing out and it's sitting flat.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Because the latch is on the bottom, so you have to like be creative, and there's no way to change the insert that's in the front. So it goes upside down.
Yeah.
So you could put it flat. So that's the only bad thing about it is it makes it harder for you to actually display the thing like on an actual DVD stand or rack or something like that.
Now you see what I would do is I would get a very if you don't have a footboard on your bed, I would get a very, very low table, like, you know, extremely low, and just set it on that at the foot of your bed. That's what I would do.
A couple other things about some cool features about this DVD. It basically there's 2 books of DVDs, and you've probably seen pictures of them online, or if you want to, you can see what it looks like. But the first book, every cover, it's the first, I believe, 9 DVDs. Every disc has a different picture of one of the good guys, one of the Joes, and it's kind of a who's who of the head Joes.
Right.
And then on the second book, which is disc 10 through 17, it's all the Cobra and Destro and, you know, all the bad guys, with obviously the last spot being reserved for, it says G.I. Joe, the movie 1987, and it's empty. So that's a pretty cool way to do that. The book that comes with it's cool. It has character profiles. It has an intro by Seth Green, and it has summaries of every episode plus full-size pictures of some of the main characters. Comes with tattoos. Not that I cared about the tattoos. the 1 gigabyte dog tag flash drive that it comes with is kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's loaded with 2 G.I. Joe comics, and it also includes a folder labeled Downloads that stores the individual comic pages as JPEG files in the event that you would want to access the images to use as screensavers or wallpaper, etc.
Oh, cool.
So that's kind of cool. And I know you kind of mentioned some of the special features, but since I've watched them all, I'll just touch on a couple of them real quick.
That's fine.
The first 3 discs all have very limited bonus features. They had an interview with Rob Friedman, one of the writers. They split it into 3 very short parts, and that's what's on the first 3 discs. The 4th disc, hold on one second. The 4th disc has Knowing is Half the Battle, the PSAs. It has the original 1963 Toy Fair presentation, has toy commercials from Hasbro, and it has a printable script. The 8th disc has... I got to flip through this book here with one hand since I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
The 8th disc has Everyday Heroes, the History of G.I. Joe. It's an in-depth look at the action figures, the comic books, the animated series. It is an awesome feature. I just watched that. It's an excellent feature. It also has more PSAs and more toy commercials. The 12th disc is where it's all at, though. The 12th disc is where the bonus features really kind of hit home for me. They have Creating the G.I. Joe animated series, and it's a look back at all the development and the writers and the producers of it, followed by Voices of a Real American Hero, which is a roundtable discussion with 8 members of the voice cast. It has Jack Angel, Michael Bell, Greg Berger, Arthur Burghardt, Dick Gaudier, B.J. Ward, and Corey Burton. It's just an absolute awesome discussion. They have the exact same thing on the Transformers one, except instead of B.J. Ward, they have Frank Welker.
Yeah.
And I think there's one other difference, too. But those 2 discussions, the 2 voices actors roundtables on the G.I. Joe and Transformers are easily the best, in my opinion, the best bonus feature on the whole thing.
Yeah.
More PSAs, more toy commercials. And then the last disc of the whole thing has Green Shirts, the G.I. Joe Legacy, which is an intimate look at those most touched. It's just kind of a fan thing. That's the only one I haven't seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
It has a conversation with Larry Hama, which is an in-depth interview with the comic book writer that we talked about. More PSAs, fan material, toy commercials, and somewhere, I don't remember what disc it is on, it has the, it's on this one. The fan material is actually the fan-made episode or whatever it was that I think you were referencing earlier that's all over YouTube or something like that.
Oh, the fan-made PSA? I
don't know. There's fan-made something on it. I haven't watched it yet. That's the only feature I haven't watched is the 2 fan ones.
Right.
So I don't know exactly what it is, but it's some fan-made thing that's on the last disc. But the bonus features are pretty good. There's a few repeating, like if you watch the bonus features on one disc, you might hear some of the same interview phrases, interview questions on another disc.
Right.
But it goes more in depth or stuff like that. But the bonus features are pretty cool.
All right. I guess we're going to move on, so I guess we're going to take a break, and we will be right back.
G.I. Joe will return after these messages.
Thanksgiving is just 1 week away, and Christmas is right around the corner. Are you looking for a gift for family members and friends that is slightly not the average gift? Well, look no further. I am TFG1 Mike from the GeekCast Radio Network, and besides podcasting, I am also a published author of poetry. I have 3 books of poetry published and 1 for sale right now. It is The Twists of Faith and Fate. This is an 85-page softcover book. It comes signed and only costs $20 per copy. I have 20 or more copies available. For more details, email me at tfg1podcast@gmail.com.
There once was a boy, an albino I'm told, who possessed the power of pen-pusher gold. He had many stories, all short and exciting, but nobody knew, and so he began writing. He sat there all summer and skillfully sought to perfectly ponder and polish each plot. The settings were set, all the characters cast, his fingers were flying and flailing so fast, and soon the young man with the snowy complexion quickly concocted the caffeine collection. He smiled, satisfied with his clever creation. Oh, the things that did pour from his imagination. Stories of pirates and future police, of devils and bullies, and a twist press release. Fantasy, mystery, both are included. Comedy, action, no genre excluded. You say to yourself, it's too good to be true, but author Steve Saylor would not lie to you. An audiobook so you don't have to read. And hey, $15 is all that you need.
From the author of the podcast novel Black Shadow, Steve Saylor presents The Caffeine Collection, a dynamic audiobook collection of short stories presented by ringtonefeeder.com and stevesaylor.net. Steve presents a genre mashup of multiple stories for your ears.
I have to be on caffeine to write all this.
Steve Saylor presents The Caffeine Collection, on sale October 28th, 2009.
So mark this date down so you will not forget. For more information, stevesaylor.net.
Now, back to G.I. Joe.
Okay, that's it. Episode 25 is in the can. Kevin came back. Yay! Kevin will be back on the show. Probably for the next little while. Kevin will be back most likely indefinitely through this telephone connection that we have, even though he won't actually be on the actual computer, but at least we have a way of getting him on the show. Final thoughts on the G.I. Joe Sunbow series. Michael, you can go first.
Final thoughts. I think I pretty well covered it. I mean, it was a goodly portion of my childhood. I hope Michael Bay doesn't come and try to ruin it. Although they did make the G.I. Joe movie. I haven't seen it.
I will never see it.
No, I will. I mean, it just came out on DVD. I'd like to see it. I just didn't want to go spend $7 to go see it.
This isn't even something I want to waste $1.06 at Redbox. No, not for me.
I'll waste it for you. I'll waste it for you just so you can see it. It's not as bad as you think.
No, I've heard it wasn't that bad. I was reading about it ahead of time and basically said, this is going to be utter crap. And I'm assuming...
That's what I thought when I went into it, and I came out a completely different opinion.
Yeah. I don't think it's kind of like with Bayformers. I'll go and I'll watch it and I'll enjoy it, but I don't think I'll end up being a fan of it. I'll always be a fan of the 1982, original stuff, but it's kind of like the Transformers. I'll always be a fan of the G1 1984 stuff, but I just can't get my head around the movie stuff.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be the same with the G.I. Joe. Where it's neat, it's a different take on it. I appreciate it, but it's not.
You're G.I. Joe.
It's just not right.
Yeah, exactly. Steve, what about you? Final thoughts?
Definitely a very memorable and good series from the '80s to watch. Spectacular voice cast, a lot of memorable characters, and then some that aren't so much. But yeah, it was definitely one of those 80s shows next to Transformers that got me hooked onto my nostalgia.
Right. And what about you, Kevin?
I honestly have to say, I have a friend that I watch a lot of animation with and crappy movies and stuff like that, and he's a little bit younger than me, kind of a different generation. But we worked together at Target, and when I got all these cartoons, Transformers, G.I. Joe, I've shown him Thundercats and He-Man and Cops and, all this different stuff. And out of all of them, he could most watch the G.I. Joe one. He loves Transformers and stuff like that, but the G.I. Joe ones he get into more than any other one, so I think that's kind of a test, of how well it stands up. Overall, huge part of my childhood, like everyone else is saying, easily amongst the 80s cartoons, which are the best ever, top 3, along with Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right, yeah. I would have to agree. Even though I don't remember watching this as a child, just watching the episodes that I watched today on YouTube are the ones that I could find. I really did find myself enjoying it. So, Michael, you can stop saying that I hate it, because I don't. I never did. I didn't remember it. That was all. I mean, the whole point of the whole point of ToonCast is to go back and remember stuff that you may have forgotten. And I know that in previous episodes, there's some things that once you start talking about it, you start remembering stuff. And you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. So, I mean, it's kind of jogged my memory a little bit, and I do want that complete DVD set. eventually.
So what you're
I'll
saying,
send it
though,
to you
is
one disc at a time.
you hated it so much that you repressed the memory of actually seeing it.
No, I'm saying that you're twisting my words. You need to shut the fuck up.
I think you
Yes.
saw. I think you saw the Deep series or something else and thought it was this series.
No, I saw this series. No. That's a discussion for another episode. So
Tangent.
random, completely random. Thank you for joining us here on ToonCast. There are several ways to get in contact with us, leave feedback for the show. The first is you can visit www.geekcastradio.com and find all the other GCRN podcasts there. You can also comment on each episode through Facebook or through the website itself. The second is you can stop by PredaconEmpire.com/Nexus. Yes, we have new forums. Because, V-Bulletin, they wanted $200, and wrong, they ain't getting it. Ain't that right, Steve?
Yes, because that's why I did the Nexus forums, and it's free and it functions and has all the old posts and everything, so
Woo!
Yeah, visit there.
Yes, and get all your GCRN Transformers discussion topics there. The third is you can leave the show feedback on iTunes. Thank you for everyone who has left feedback. New listeners, current listeners, please leave more feedback as you go along. The fourth is you can visit the www.earth-2.net forums. That's a great geek culture website over there. You can find our threads for the shows in the self-promotion section. And the fifth is the email address, which is gcrntooncast@gmail.com. We now have a voicemail line. Call us and leave us your thoughts on each episode. Be sure to say what show you're leaving the message for and your name. The number is 502-526-5821. You can follow us on Twitter. The show name there is GCRN ToonCast. Mine is TFG and Mike. Steve, what's your Twitter?
SCP-21.
Kevin's, even though he's currently without internet, his is Boss K Dog. You can follow him on there, even though he's not active. And Michael, what is yours?
Pecan Court Michael, P-E-C-E-A-C-A-N. I'm just going to drag this out all the hell. C-T-M-I-C-H-A-E-L.
M-O-U-S-A.
Mickey Mouse.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of ToonCast and wish you will join us next time when Kevin will be returning with me to discuss a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. For now, I am TFG1 Mike with... Take it away, guys.
I'm Michael Wilson. Goodbye.
Yes.
Boss K-Dog.
And Steve Megatron Phillips.
Saying in the immortal words of Optimus Prime, transform and roll out, and thank you for listening. Until next time.
And knowing is half the battle.
Yes, and knowing is half the battle.
This I command.
Oh, good Lord.